All right, we're just doing a very quick sound check. Just a quick sound check to make sure that everything is good to go before we continue. Sorry, I just need to reset something in my phone to make sure that it is working. If you hear me, please let me know. Okay, I see that 2 people are watching. Please say hello if you're here. We're going to do something a little bit differently. Sound check is fine. Okay. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. Normally, I have already highlighted all the important features, but this time I wanted to see if we could do this together. So if you're present, please don't be shy. Please speak in chat, and we're doing a pretty short delay today. So 2 things to keep in mind for that. Number 1 is we're going to be a lot more responsive in chat because there is a shorter delay. And number 2 is that if you're on a mobile device, please let me know if it suddenly gets blurry. Sometimes, unfortunately, that is what happens when we're using lower latency. It's fine on desktop, but on mobile it sometimes gives us some trouble. Alright, so this is the original essay. Right off the bat, if you guys are going to be submitting to us, by the way, that is over to the left, you can see where you can send us your essays, right down here at corrections@theieltsgrind.com. Feel free to send us any essays or any submissions of audio recordings, and we will let you know what you need to do to improve. However, when you do it, please make sure you send us the entire prompt. This is from Siru, who is asking for help for this essay that he's written, and he does have the pie chart here, but unfortunately he's missing a prompt. Usually there's a little table that has some words that gives you the instructions. That is actually really important for 2 things. Number 1, it tells you exactly how you should be writing your intro, because all you have to do is rephrase what they said. And number 2, it gives some context. So unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to understand what these pie charts are talking about because we are missing that information. So when you send your submissions, please make sure that you also include every part of the prompt. We also have what I think is a little mistake. I thought maybe this was 6 pie charts, which is very rare but can happen. And then I looked closely and I saw 43%, 43%, 37, 37, 16, 15, 15. These are exactly the same charts. We only need 1. So let's delete that and scale this up a little bit. By the way, if the text is too small, please let me know and I will fix it for you. So let's already make that 14 and put it onto a new page so that it fits on one. Nice. Likewise, we will do that with the remaining ones as well, just to make sure that it's clear for you guys on mobile devices. So, before we even jump into his essay, I want to say that we have a document that you guys can see. See, it's already shared. Anyone on the internet can view. We already have the link in the description. So you guys can jump on and read at your own pace. For example, if I go a little bit too fast for you, you can go here. The IELTS Grind. We've got the live corrections right here. And if you scroll down, you can see right here. This is the document that we are working from. So you guys can pop in over here and join us. Also, we also have the email that you guys can send us your submissions. We are looking for submissions, so please send them to us. They are completely free, and if you do not want us to say your last name, or if you don't want us to say any name, or if you want us to make up a name, we can do that for you. Alright, so before we jump into his essay, let's do a little bit of analysis here. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult to figure out what this is talking about because we are missing some information from the prompt. But we can see that this is the average percentages of sodium, that's salt, saturated fat, and added sugar in typical meals consumed in the US. So first thing we need to do is realize what the group is. Okay, so this is 14% of sodium in typical meals consumed in the US. So this is snacks. So I believe what this is saying is that 14% of sodium is of like the average American's daily intake is found in snacks. So basically, we can add a little table over here and make it fit and move it up. Okay. Okay. So %14 of an average American's salt intake is found in snacks. Alright, so this, I'm pretty sure this is what this is saying, but again, because we're missing that beginning of the prompt, I'm not 100% sure. It could also be that snacks account for 14% of an average American's salt intake. And I'm pretty sure that this is probably daily salt intake. So that means every day. This is basically answering the question, how much salt, and this is a percent of how much salt does, okay, what percentage of salt that an American eats every day is found in snacks? This is why pie charts are so annoying, is that in English we do have pretty complicated sentence structures to describe pie charts. Um, and it's also important to have that up there. But we're gonna make do with what we have. So yes, I believe this is what it's saying. It could be saying something else, but we're gonna go along with this. With that being said, let's see how close he was in his. First, let's look for the basic stuff. Does he have enough words? He's a little bit short, actually. This is actually a lot short. 122 is way less than 150. And unfortunately, if you are writing an essay and you are very short, you will lose 1, so -1 in task achievement. Now, they did change this rule recently to make it so that if you are a very high-level English user and you can say everything that's important in the task 1 and it's under 150 words, you will do okay. But that's only supposed to be for people who are an 8 or a 9. Really just a 9. Always try to make sure you hit that 150 words. It is extremely important that you do. Alright, second, let's see, does he have an overview? Yes, he does. So that means he's going to get more than a 5. And overall, people have gained more sugar from snacks. Well, okay. This is gained more sugar from snacks while saturated in sodium from dinner. This shows me that I see what he's trying to say, but this is the wrong word to use for it. But I can understand what he means, so this would be a 6 in vocabulary, and because I understand what he's trying to say, it would give him high enough for his task achievement. He does have an intro. Describe the consumed proportions of various nutrients, namely sodium, saturated fat, and added sugar in common foods of the US. So this is fantastic. He took some basic information from the chart. So this is something that you want to try to do in your own essays. Usually all you have to do is take the prompt, which again isn't here. There's usually about 2 or 3 sentences up here, and you're just rephrasing the first sentence. But if you want to get some extra points, you should take basic information from the chart and add it to your intro. So for example, sodium, saturated fat, and added sugar. These probably weren't in the prompt, but he saw it here and he added them. Also, he should try to add these. This is basic information that should be found in the intro. And this is his first really big mistake. In common foods. This is just wrong, which is why it's red. Orange means it's kind of wrong, green means it's really good, red is it's just wrong. What I mean by that is common foods. This is not about foods. This is about meals. You can see it up here, meals. You can see it down here, these are meals. And so because he's just got that completely wrong, it does hurt his score. Okay, but other than that, it was a pretty good intro, pretty good overview. He's saying snacks are where most sugar is eaten, nice. And dinner is where most sodium and saturated fats are eaten. This is actually a really good analysis of it. It was just his vocabulary is holding him back a little bit. Regarding the first two charts, okay, this I'm going to highlight in orange because as a general rule, you don't want to describe the chart. You don't want to ever say the graph after the intro. What you really want to do is describe the data. So I have a rule that I tell my students. You should only say the word graph or chart in your intro. After that, you should never use this word. He's using it okay here, but I recommend you try to just describe the trends in the data instead of comparing the graphs. Alright, so regarding the first two graphs, dinner is responsible for providing 43% and 37% sodium and saturated fat. He's missing a word here, but I can still guess his meaning, so task achievement is okay, but it will hurt his grammar score later on. Dinner is responsible for providing 43% of sodium and 37% of saturated fat. He's got the wrong, he's very close, but he's not using the right sentence frame. And part of that is because pie charts in English are very difficult, notoriously difficult for the sentence frames. You need to have the right of. What I mean by that is when we are describing a percentage, it's always a percentage of something. 14% of an average American's daily salt intake is found in snacks. Of an average American's daily saturated fat intake. Because he's just saying the name here, it's not quite right. Again, I can guess what he's saying, but it's very strange to a native speaker. Okay. So, also he's missing a very important word. The word is respectively. I'm going to add it in red here. Okay, respectively is a very useful word because what it means is dinner is 43%. Sorry. My mistake. He doesn't need respectively here. He's just describing dinner. So dinner is responsible for providing 43%. Yeah, this is what he needs to do. He needs to move this over here. 43% of sodium and 37% of saturated fat. Still has the same problem I mentioned before, where he's not saying of the daily intake. So I will add that. Of a typical American's daily diet or daily intake. And then whereas is actually one word. But again, that's more grammar. Whereas the same amount of sodium has attained. This is a big grammar mistake, and it's such a big grammar mistake that a native speaker who is not an English teacher would not understand what he means. So because a non-native speaker can't understand it, because a native speaker couldn't understand it, it hurts his task achievement. Has attained by breakfast and snacks, 14%. Okay. So this is more of a CC problem, but they're all connected. If there isn't a clear flow or connection between your ideas and your sentences, it makes it harder to understand. If it can't be understood, then you lose task achievement. They are linked together. Same with vocabulary. If I can't understand the vocabulary, or because of a grammar mistake, it hurts your task achievement score. So whereas is being used to should be used to compare. Okay, so this is comparing dinner and breakfast. So regarding the first two charts, dinner is responsible for providing 43% of sodium and 37% of saturated fat of a typical American's daily diet. Whereas the same amount of sodium, this is where the mistake is coming in. Whereas is actually okay because he's comparing dinner to breakfast. However, he's following this comparative word with the wrong word here. He's trying to say that 14% of snacks and 14% of so sodium. So sodium, whereas the same amount of sodium has attained by breakfast and snacks. Yeah, he's trying to say that an equal amount of sodium is eaten for snacks and for breakfast. Because he doesn't have the right sentence frame here, it's hard to understand what he's trying to say. It doesn't work. So he should probably say something along the lines of, let me add a note here. So his first sentence is okay if we add this. So if we're still talking about sodium and if we're only talking about sodium, I would probably, instead of saying whereas, I would say meanwhile, so at the same time. Or this is in contrast to breakfast and snacks, which accounted for 14% of daily salt intake each. All right, this is the sentence that he should have used instead of here. You can also say another sentence. Whereas breakfast and snacks accounted for much lower percentages of daily salt intake. And instead of intake, we can also say consumed in the average American's diet. So salt intake and salt consumed in the average American's diet is the same. And then after that, we would say an equal amount of salt was consumed during breakfasts and snacks with 14% each. And just to make it a little bit clear, you could put each here, or you could move it after which each accounted for 14% of salt intake. So this is what me and Phil mean when we say you should learn sentence frames. It's very important that you learn the correct structure of how we describe these things before you guys try to make your own sentences, because you will run into a lot of mistakes. This is why we are putting on these live streams and making our videos, is to make it easy for you guys to see what you need to write. This would be great if you learn this sentence frame, and then all you need to learn is to change this word, and this number. If you learn this sentence and you learn exactly what it means, then you can switch out these three parts and you can have a beautiful high-level sentence. So Naz, good question. You can use a count for more than once, and part of the reason for that is because of the fact that we don't have many ways to describe a pie chart. There are really only 3 sentences that you can really use to describe a percentage. So if we had a pie chart and it said 50% of Taiwanese people bought a cell phone last year. Okay, we could also say last year. Sorry for the typo. Last year. Okay, we're gonna use account for cannot be used in every single pie chart. So I need to be careful about my example sentence. Of Amazon sales were for cell phones. Not true, but just an example. Last year, cell phones accounted for 50% of Amazon sales. Okay, so these are really the only two sentences that we can use to describe a pie chart. 50% of, and then the group. And then a verb, were for, and then the thing you want to talk about. Over here, we will say the thing. So this would probably be the name of the category, the verb, and then the group is over here. So this is of what? The most important thing is that you always write of what. You're going to write a percent of what. Many students have the mistake where they don't know what the what is. And that is one of the reasons why I said this was a little bit difficult to come up with, because we are missing that first thing. Okay. Sorry, thank you, Naz, for pointing that out. Sorry that it took me so long to look down. I see what you mean. Let me fix that really fast. Okay. Alright, we're gonna have to make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Can you see fine now? Alright, Naz, is that okay? And also, please let me know if it becomes blurry. That is also really important, something that we want to stop from happening. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick test after making those changes. Is this okay? Still has the same problem. Alright, let's make it a little bit smaller then. Move it over. Okay. So it should fit now. Alright, I'm going to make sure that I'm zoomed in so that you guys can see everything. Okay. Alright. Also, I need you guys to let me know whether or not this is clear on your mobile devices. Because it is getting a little bit off for me. Okay. Well, remember, if you guys are watching from your desktop, there will be no problems. Apologies for any fuzziness that you guys see. Okay. So, let's continue going over his essay. Looking specifically at the task achievement. Okay, so we talked about how to fix this sentence already. 21% and 16% saturated fat can be obtained from the previously mentioned meals respectively. So he did a good job using this correctly. Okay. Again, he's forgetting of. This is going to hurt his grammar score. But I can understand, except of course that he's also missing the of what. It's not 21% of saturated fat. It's 21% of the daily intake of saturated fat. So again, this is something that may or may not really hurt his score. Really, I don't see him getting a 7 or above just because of this pretty big mistake. I think 6 across the board is probably what we're going to be seeing. Okay. But can be obtained from the previously mentioned meals. This is really good referencing, but not important to task achievement. I can just about understand what he's saying, so not bad. This is a pretty good sentence frame if he said of what correctly. Okay. Now, remaining 29%, these are just a few things that I want to fix really fast. He needs to add the remaining 29%. And 26% are allocated for lunch to get those nutrients. Now, this is... Okay, so he's still talking about... Is he talking about sodium or saturated fat? This whole thing... So sodium and saturated fat. Sodium in breakfast and snacks. Saturated fat of the previous mentioned meals, meaning breakfast and snacks. So the remaining 29% and 26% are allocated for lunch for those nutrients. Okay. This is where if you do too much referencing, it can get confusing. So this is referencing those nutrients. Which ones? Saturated fat and what? This is... He's having a little bit of trouble with... Okay, so he said lunch, and he should probably just be specific. Those nutrients means more than one, but I'm pretty sure he's just talking about Okay, sodium and saturated fat for lunch. Okay. So this was actually pretty cool. The remaining 29%, this is a pretty cool sentence frame that he used. So basically what this is saying, the remaining 29% means I already told you this number, I already told you this number, I already told you this number, so the only number that's left is 29%. So the remaining 29% and 26% are allocated for lunch. Now, this is a little weird. This is not exactly how we would use the word allocated. I can understand what he means, but this, when you allocate something, this means that you are giving it to someone. Like, I'm allocating you resources, I'm giving you resources. It's not quite what this is describing. What it's really describing is what percentage of sodium is in someone's diet. What percentage of saturated fat is in someone's dinner. Allocated is, I understand what he's saying, but it's not quite the right word here. In terms of the next chart, so this guy clearly has trouble with articles. Articles are like and the. Again, it's okay here. He's using it correctly here, but I do recommend that you only talk about the data, you don't talk about the charts in your essays. Snacks comprised of 42% of sugar. This, again, this is making me think he doesn't, because of how he structured this sentence, it makes me think he doesn't understand what he's looking at. Comprise, again, using the wrong word, which makes me think that he doesn't understand what the chart is talking about. Well, breakfast represents only 16%. This is the correct word to use in this situation. But again, he needs to say of what. This is the thing that everyone hates about pie charts. Of what? 16% of of daily sugar intake, of added sugar intake. Lunch and dinner has about 20%, 23% of sugar consequently. Again, just at the end, his essay kind of starts to fall apart because I don't know what he means here. Lunch has about 20% of sugar. That's just completely wrong. That's very low level. This would make me think of a 4. This sentence right here is basically a 4 in grammar and vocab. However, he isn't a 4. He is... Alright, his analysis of this chart was decent, but because of his mistakes with grammar and vocab, he does some things really well, and I can understand a lot of what he's saying, but there's just a few too many mistakes, especially at the end. So this is a 4 to a 5. I mean, it could, if he didn't make the mistakes he made, he could have brought it up to a 6, honestly. But because of the mistakes he was making, he's going to be getting a 5 here. Again, 4 is pretty harsh. This isn't really a 4. It was just at the, if you're looking at all the colors that we've put out, there is a lot of red and orange. It's not a bad essay, but again, just too many little mistakes that brought him down. If he had learned some high-level sentence frames, he could have moved this up. His analysis was pretty good. It was just he didn't use he sometimes didn't use the correct sentences to describe what he was trying to say. All right, so next up is CC. The way that he organized his ideas was actually really good. I liked how he talked about saturated fat and sugar. We're going to copy this one more time. I really liked how he saw that these two are similar and this was different. I wish he had said that more explicitly. I wish he had said it more clearly, that these two had very similar distributions and this one had a very different distribution. He didn't explicitly say that, but his structure says that. Also, he has some pretty good CC words. The given pie chart, really nice, high level. The various nutrients, namely, this is nice, high level thing to say. He clearly learned a really good sentence frame for this. In common foods, that was nice. Overall, good CC word saying I have an overview. That was fantastic. Regarding the first two pie charts, even though I say you shouldn't say pie charts, he did use this CC phrase very, very well. Whereas he made a small spelling mistake, which does stop him a little bit, but really he used it correctly here. Unfortunately, what he was comparing was not correct, which we talked about earlier, but he did use this correctly. The previously mentioned meal. This is good. Now, technically, referencing is actually part of vocabulary. It's part of LR. However, he did do it well. I always see referencing as a part of cohesion and coherence. It's how you connect your ideas. And so because of that, I'm highlighting the good referencing here. The remaining, like I said, also great. In terms of the next chart, don't say chart, but he did use it correctly. And talking about snacks and dividing it this way, this brings him from between a 5 and a 6. He actually did a pretty good job structuring his essay, using referencing and connecting his ideas. I'm going to give him a 6, but there would probably be other people who would give him a 5. The reason why they would give him a 5 is because his grammar and vocab mistakes sometimes made it difficult to understand what was being said, and that stops your coherence. Cohesion and coherence. Cohesion means do your ideas stick together. Coherence means can you be understood. So because there were some problems with understanding what he was saying because of those vocab problems, another teacher might have given him a 5. I'm going to be nice and give him a 6. Okay. And sorry, we're just going to do highlighting instead to make it very clear so that people don't think, oh, it's the opposite. Okay. So, next up, his vocabulary. He had a lot of really nice vocabulary. The given pie charts describe the consumed proportions. Nice. Various nutrients. Nutrients, it sounded a little weird to me, but then I looked it up and it was perfectly fine. Namely is used correctly. Again, common foods, this hurt him a lot because not only did it hurt him in his vocabulary, it hurt him in his task achievement. Gained more sugar. Again, we talked about this before. Not quite the right word, but I understand what he's saying, so it's good enough. Is responsible for providing is fine, but he forgot to say of what. I'm gonna put that as more of a grammar problem than a vocab problem. So even though he had that mistake there, it's fine. This is spelling, so it does affect his vocabulary score, but very minor. It's very close. This is basically just a really small mistake that he made. Okay. Has attained by breakfast. This is the first one that really threw him off. Sorry, that's a little bit harsh. This is the first one that really threw his score down, because it's such a mistake that it's not clear what he's saying. Can be obtained from. This is nice. Using respectively correctly. Nice. The remaining is grammar. Are allocated. This is another not quite right. Now, unfortunately, comprised is completely wrong. Sorry. Yes. Well, breakfast represents only 16%. And again, these mistakes right here, it's so bad. This last sentence frame, it really killed his score. He was really close to having a 6. He was really close to having a 6. But then this last sentence in his final paragraph just stopped it. So 5 to 6, unfortunately, his final mistake was just too big to ignore. And so again, it is a 5. All right, guys. Next up, by the way, just to show you guys how he could have said the mistakes that he made. So we already fixed this sentence, but let's see if we can fix the last one. All right. So snacks, meanwhile, I'm not going to mention the chart because, like I said, describe the data, not the chart. Snacks, meanwhile, and if we go up to the chart just to make sure that we aren't making any mistakes here. Oh no. Oh, it was an autocorrect. Okay, sorry guys. Can you guys still see? I hope so. Alright. Remember guys, if you guys can't see clearly, you guys can always go and follow the link to see this on your own screen. Okay. So snacks, meanwhile, so we could do this two ways. We could say looking at sugar consumption, or we could say snacks. Snacks, meanwhile, was the meal where 42% of the average American's sugar intake was consumed. Again, really high level and complicated. I'm sorry, pie charts are never easy. Okay. And thank you, Naz, for letting me know that you can see clearly. Okay, looking at sugar consumption. %42 of added sugar is consumed. So there's no time here, so we should actually be using present tense. Generally, as a good rule for grammar, when you're doing pie charts, if there is no time, you should use present simple for your main tense. If there is a time, you're probably going to be using past, or if it's in the future, future tense. Okay. So 40% of added sugar of the typical Americans, added sugar is consumed through snacks. Okay. Let's see. Remember, guys, if I'm going too fast or I'm writing sentences that are too high level that you don't understand, it's perfectly fine to tell me in chat, and I can break them down into simpler sentences. But looking at sugar consumption, 42% of the typical Americans' added sugar is consumed through snacks. Yes. Through snacks, it's the same way as saying when they are snacking. It's a little bit tough to say this last bit because of the fact that snacks is a weird meal. Dinner, breakfast, and lunch are clear meals. Snacks, we use slightly different vocabulary to describe it. So if we were going to say, let's look at the 18%. So let's use this exact same sentence frame, but using, changing it for a different part. Let's say, looking at sugar consumption, 18% of the typical Americans' added sugar is consumed at breakfast. Or you could say during breakfast. And again, through snacks, but we say at breakfast, because breakfast, lunch, and dinner are clear meals. Snacking is something that's a little bit different. Okay. Let's see if we can do the same thing here. Snacks, meanwhile, is so ugly. Is the meal where, so let's again do this. Breakfast meanwhile is the meal where 16% of the average American's sugar intake is consumed. This is what I mean by a sentence frame. It's a sentence that's high level, but you can just change one or two parts of it and trick the examiner. If you used a sentence like this during your exam, it's super high level, your examiner will go, wow, where did this come from? And it will raise your score if you learn it correctly. We can do the same thing down here. 19% is lunch. And really, I'm going to cheat here. I'm just going to copy and paste. And I'm going to say lunch, meanwhile, is where 19% of the average American sugar intake is consumed. Okay, so I hope you guys can see how sentence frames work. What I recommend you do is you go and find other high-level model essays. They are out there. We also have a few videos where we have our own high-level model essays that you can check out. But we're going to look at my model essay for this answer. By the way, just to do grammar really fast. So vocab was 5. Grammar, he had some nice, really high stuff. The given pie charts describe. This is nice. Namely, using this clause correctly, super high level. When I read his first sentence, I was like, oh man, I'm so happy. This is going to be a 7 or an 8, just because his intro was so good. Again, this is a problem for vocab, but not grammar. Have gained more sugar. This was a vocab mistake more than a grammar mistake. While saturated in fat and sodium from... So he is missing something here. People have gained more sugar from snacks, while they have gained more sodium and saturated fat from dinner. Yes, he needs to add something here. This is a mistake. Regarding the first two charts, nice. Dinner is responsible for providing 43% of sodium and saturated fat. We talked about this mistake before. He didn't say of what, and so grammar mistake. Has attained by breakfast and snacks. Again, this is, we fixed it already, but it was a grammar and vocab mistake. That was great. Can be obtained from. This is used correctly, and it is passive voice. Great. Also, the fact that he's using present simple is great. Are allocated for lunch to get those nutrients. He made a little mistake here, which unfortunately, even though he was really close, a mistake is a mistake. And snacks comprised of 42% sugar. So this is a really common problem where, because he doesn't know the sentence frame, the reason why pie charts in English are so annoying is because you can have two sentences that look very similar, but they have completely different meanings. Let me just give you one example right here. 30% of women who are aged 18 to 30 work out. And then 30% of women who work out are 18 to 30. Really quick question to you guys. Are these the same pie chart? Naz, do you know? Are these the same or different? Okay, let me see if I can quickly throw this together. What on earth? Okay. So we'll say that this is 0 to 17, woman's age, 18 to 30, 31 to 60, and this is 60 plus. Alright, so we said 30%, and then we'll just have some other things here. 25 plus 30 plus 15, and then what's left? Math is not my strong suit. And by the way, Naz, they are not. They are actually not the same. They look the same, but they are very different. We are using this pie chart to show you what I mean as soon as I realize what's left. So that's 3, that's 40, 70. Okay, so we need another 30. Okay. And this is woman's age, and this is percent of them who work out. So let's see if we can make a pie chart out of this. Sorry for the delay. Okay. So we can see here. So this is the woman's age, and this is percent of them who work out. So this means that 30% of women who are 60 or more work out. This is different from, let's add one more. Man, I wish I could just draw the pie chart. Maybe I can. Okay. Let's delete that. Okay. So we have a circle. And let's say that we said 30%. So let's draw to the center. Oh, why did I choose 30%? I should have just said 25%. Okay, to the center. All right, so with the first, sentence, this is a text box. Women who work out. And let me see if I can put this to the middle. Which means that down here is women who don't work out. And then the group, if we save this, so 30% of women who are aged 18 to 30 work out. This is what this is saying. So, this is A. And this is B. So 30% of women who are aged 18 to 30 work out. So women who work out are here. Women who don't work out are here. 30%. And then that means that the group sorry guys, technology is not my friend today. Okay. You know what, guys? Unfortunately, we are running out of time here. Next, at the beginning of my next live stream, I'm going to have a nice little presentation here to explain exactly what I mean here, because these are different. I'm also going to give you the model answer. We're going to do that tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow at 2, we are going to finish this lesson. Unfortunately, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Sorry for the abrupt end, but I will be here tomorrow at the same time. See you then. Peace.